Have you ever wondered how people endure the absolute worst? And I don't mean just like a bad day,
Right, right.
but facing something truly horrific.
Yeah,
You sent in Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning,
right.
and it dives headfirst into this very question.
Yeah,
Frankl, a psychiatrist, details his time in Auschwitz
right.
and how he found meaning
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of unimaginable suffering.
Yeah,
So get ready for a powerful deep dive,
okay.
because we're going beyond the historical facts.
Okay.
We're going deep into the human psyche.
And that's what makes this book so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Frankl doesn't just recount the events. He analyzes them through the lens of a psychiatrist,
Right.
witnessing firsthand how humans react when stripped bare,
Yeah.
when faced with the abyss.
It's heavy stuff, for sure. Frankl doesn't sugarcoat the experience.
No.
He describes arriving at Auschwitz,
Right.
and it's like stepping into a nightmare.
Right.
The finger game selection process,
Yeah.
where guards casually decided who would live or die with a flick of the wrist,
Right.
the chilling sight of the crematorium chimney,
Yeah.
constantly reminding them of the ever-present threat of death.
That constant threat, the uncertainty,
Yeah.
it created what Frankl called barbed wire sickness.
Oh, wow.
Imagine feeling utterly hopeless, apathetic, numb, not
Yeah.
just for a day or two,
Right.
but as a constant state of being.
It's hard to even fathom.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, how did anyone hold on to sanity in that environment?
Well, Frankl observed that prisoners went through distinct psychological phases.
Okay.
The initial shock, where survival becomes the sole focus. Right.
Then comes this struggle to cling to any semblance of hope, of purpose,
Right.
of future beyond the barbed wire.
And sadly, some couldn't cling on.
Right.
He talks about the Moslem phenomenon.
Right.
Prisoners who had completely given up, both physically and mentally.
Think of it like this. If your will to live is your lifeline,
Yeah.
the Muslims tragically lost their grip.
Yeah.
They were the walking embodiment of what happens when hope truly dies.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
And it makes those glimmers of hope he describes all the more powerful.
Yeah.
He even observed some unexpected things.
Okay.
For example, he noticed the near absence of sexual urges.
Really?
He called it a type of cultural hibernation,
Wow.
where basic human desires were put on hold in that environment. It's almost as if the mind, overwhelmed by the constant threat of death,
Yeah.
suppressed anything deemed non-essential for immediate survival.
Right.
Yet discussions about religion and politics, those persisted.
Wow.
Can you imagine debating the finer points of faith or ideology while staring death in the face?
It seems so surreal.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about what truly sustains us.
Yeah.
What gives us strength in the face of unimaginable hardship.
It reveals the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Even in Auschwitz, people sought connection,
Yeah.
debated ideas,
Right.
and clung to their beliefs as a way to make sense of the chaos, to
Yeah.
feel remotely human.
There's a moment that really struck me
Okay.
where Frankl describes his train passing by his childhood street in Vienna. Here he is staring out the window at the ghost of his old life.
Right.
Yet he feels this chilling detachment.
Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
The need to detach from everything you knew,
Right.
everything you loved to
Yeah.
survive.
Wow.
It's a chilling example of the psychological defenses people used to cope with such profound loss. They
Right.
had to distance themselves emotionally,
Yeah.
clinging to the faintest hope of seeing their loved ones again.
Yeah.
It was a way to survive the unbearable.
It's incredible how even in that darkness, Frankl found these glimmers of hope.
Yeah.
He goes from describing these horrors to these almost sacred moments of meaning
Right.
that peek through.
And that's the crux of logotherapy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about pretending suffering doesn't exist,
Right.
but rather uncovering meaning within it, even or perhaps especially when things are at their worst.
He talks about the relativity of suffering,
Yeah.
how even small wins in the camp
Right.
brought immense joy.
Yeah.
Like getting assigned to a slightly less brutal work detail,
Yeah.
or finding an extra scrap of food.
Yeah.
I can't imagine those tiny victories feeling so huge.
It really underscores how adaptable we are as humans, right? We find glimmers of light in the darkest places.
Right.
What we perceive as unbearable suffering often depends on our circumstances and mindset.
And here's something I never expected: humor.
Go.
Frankl talks about a prisoner cook who would yell, "Action, action," to get people moving.
Wow.
It's funny to think about,
Yeah.
but he said even after the war, a surgeon friend who'd been in the camps couldn't break the habit
Oh, gosh.
of yelling it during operations.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Even what you might call gallows humor
Right.
becomes a coping mechanism, a way to detach for a moment from the crushing weight of reality.
It makes you realize the power we have to choose our attitude,
Yeah,
even when it feels like everything has been stripped away.
exactly.
Yeah.
Frankl calls this the last of human freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Auschwitz stripped bare,
Right.
you still had the freedom to choose your response, your attitude toward your circumstances.
And love played such a huge role.
Oh, absolutely.
Frankl talks about having these imaginary conversations with his wife
Right.
while on a forced march,
Yeah.
just clinging to the memory of her.
That image is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It speaks to the transcendence of love.
Right.
Its ability to provide solace and strength when all else fails. Frankl argues that love is the ultimate aspiration for humankind, and you can see how his experiences in the camps solidified that belief.
He also shares the story of the chestnut tree.
Yeah.
And this one really stuck with me.
Okay.
It's about a young woman close to death
All right.
who finds solace in talking to a chestnut tree outside her window.
Wow.
She claimed it gave her hope.
That story tends to spark debate.
Yeah.
Was she delusional,
Right.
or had she tapped into something profound about our need for connection, even with nature as a source of strength?
Right.
Frankl seems to lean toward the latter,
Yeah.
suggesting that even in that bleak environment, the human spirit seeks meaning and connection wherever it can.
It reminds me of that quote, I think it was Nietzsche, who said, "He who has a why to live can bear with almost anyhow."
Right.
Did you ever think about finding meaning through suffering? It seems almost counterintuitive.
It's a powerful thought, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to the incredible strength we can find in having a purpose,
Right.
a reason to endure unimaginable hardship.
Right.
Frankl's entire philosophy hinges on this,
Yeah.
that our primary drive isn't pleasure, but meaning.
And for Frankl, wasn't that drive for meaning what helped him survive Auschwitz?
Yeah.
He wasn't just enduring.
Right.
He was actively searching for meaning.
Right.
Holding on to the belief that his experiences could help others.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And here's the real kicker.
Okay.
He even found meaning when he thought his manuscript, the one he was desperately clinging to, the one he was reconstructing in his mind, was lost forever.
Wait, what happened to his manuscript?
He'd been working on it in secret, you see, jotting down notes whenever he could.
Okay.
It was his life's work,
Right.
containing all of his observations about logotherapy. And then just like that, it was confiscated.
Oh.
It was a crushing blow.
That's devastating.
But instead of surrendering to despair,
Right.
Frankl had a profound realization.
What was it?
He realized that even the loss of his manuscript could have meaning. He could choose to see it not as a defeat,
Right.
but as a test,
Okay.
an opportunity to start again,
Wow.
to rebuild his work from memory,
Yeah.
to prove the very principles of logotherapy he was writing about. Yeah.
It's like he's saying even losing something you love, like his manuscript, can be a catalyst for finding meaning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really a powerful testament to the human spirit's ability to find purpose, even in loss, to choose to create something new from the ashes of what has been destroyed.
You know, Frankl doesn't just talk about the camps.
Right.
He moves on to the challenges of returning to normal life.
Right.
The psychological impacts of liberation.
It was a very, very difficult transition to go from the stark, brutal reality of the camps
Right.
back to normal life.
Right.
Frankl refers to this as a kind of depersonalization,
Right.
a feeling of unreality.
Wow.
You know, imagine being in a place where every moment is a struggle for survival,
Right.
and suddenly being thrust back into a world where the focus is on leisure and comfort. It's a huge adjustment.
Yeah. He even mentions prisoners feeling almost numb.
Right.
Struggling to even grasp the concept of freedom after years of deprivation.
Yeah.
It's almost like they had to relearn how to feel joy, how to experience life again.
Absolutely. And, you know, then there's the danger of bitterness, disillusionment.
Right.
These feelings that can easily fester when a prisoner realizes that the world outside the camps hasn't always treated them with the compassion and understanding they deserved.
Right.
Frankl even tells the story of a prisoner who wanted to stain his hand with blood when he got back home because of all the pain he'd endured.
Wow, that's chilling.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that healing from trauma takes time,
Sure.
guidance and understanding.
Yeah.
It's not simply a matter of walking out of the camp and suddenly being okay again.
It's also a reflection of the psychological toll of the camps. Right. It's a call to action. Yeah. To recognize that even in a world that often seems indifferent to suffering, We have the capacity for empathy and compassion.
So Frankl essentially distills logotherapy into this one powerful idea.
Yeah.
Our primary drive isn't pleasure, but meaning.
And that meaning can be found in many forms. Through creative work, through love, through facing suffering with dignity, even through overcoming guilt and accepting death.
Right.
It's not about avoiding these things, but rather finding meaning in the face of them.
He even calls out this existential vacuum we often experience today.
Oh, absolutely.
Boredom, lack of direction, a sense of emptiness.
Right.
The camps, as horrible as they were, actually forced people to confront the meaning of their lives.
The camps stripped away all those external distractions, the trappings of modern life, leaving prisoners with nothing but the stark reality of their own existence.
Wow.
And in that stark reality, they were forced to search for meaning, for purpose, to discover what really mattered.
He talks about that tragic triad of suffering, guilt, and death,
Right.
accepting them as intrinsic to the human experience, not as burdens to avoid.
And that's where true resilience lies, isn't it?
Yeah.
In acknowledging these realities not as things to fear or hide from, but as opportunities for growth, for discovering the deeper meaning in our lives.
Frankl's own story of finding meaning, even when his manuscript seemed lost forever, is a testament to that.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the face of loss, the human spirit can choose to rise above, to create something new, to find meaning in the midst of tragedy.
So what does this all mean for you? Frankl urges us to live as if we've lived before and made all the wrong choices.
It's a provocative thought, isn't it?
It is.
To approach life with a sense of urgency, of making the most of each moment, knowing that every decision has consequences.
That perspective can make even the most mundane decisions feel significant, as if each choice is a step towards a more meaningful life.
And that, I believe, is the essence of Frankl's message. To embrace the fullness of life with all its challenges and joys, and to find meaning in each moment, even in the darkest of times.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into man's search for meaning. I hope we've given you some powerful insights to ponder.